Good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the Tennesseans BizCast. I am Lance Williams, business editor at the Tennessean, joined today by Kia Jarman and Laura Stevenson. Today we're going to be talking about holiday parties, and it's of course that time of year where it's relaxing and our schedules aren't very busy. Is that right?
Right.
No, in fact, a lot of folks' schedules are packed very tight, and it's very tough to sort of meet all the obligations, all the work obligations, and also figure out how to balance all the holiday parties. So we have both of you here today to give us some advice and some practical tips to help us survive and even thrive during this holiday season. Laura, I'd like to start with you and ask you a little bit about how you balance your schedule, how you try to figure out, how you prioritize what kind of events you're going to try to attend, and just really how you fit everything into a busy schedule.
Well, I think for me, the most important thing is planning in advance. And some of that has to do with working freelance on my own. Some of it has to do with being a business owner. And some of that, of course, has to do with having a family, kids. So from there, I take a look at ahead of time. Usually I know the school schedule first, so not just because they're children, but normally that drives a lot of what happens in our house. And then my husband is also a CEO, so we literally make every Saturday morning time to do budgets, bills, and calendaring. And that's when we take a look at, okay, who's got the more important meeting? Who has to be where and what's vital? And we really take it week by week, even when we're not in holiday times, to figure out, how we can support each other and our family.
That's really smart. I'll have to sit down on Saturday mornings and do that.
That's learning it the hard way.
Yeah, but that's super smart. I think for me, in terms of the balance, is one, knowing that you can't go everywhere. You can't be seen at all places, and really knowing why I'm going. If I'm going to a place, if I'm invited to 3 events in one day and I really want to maybe court a new client, then that's probably the place I'm going to go. If I just want to turn all the way off and have a good time, I may decide to go someplace for that, just to kind of hang out with people who I've met throughout the year. So it really just depends on all that. But I don't try to go to everything, just the most important things I can go to in a day or week's time. So.
Okay. Well, and tell me a little bit about holiday events. And we all have networking events throughout the year. But are holiday events different? And if so, sort of how do you navigate those a little bit differently than maybe just a typical networking event?
Well, probably for me, and this is in general, but really having an objective. I think we kind of joke, Laura and I, about kind of going to the holiday party to have a good time. So if that's your objective, really go knowing that that's what you want to do. Of course, keeping in mind that this may have a little more drink, a little more fair than typical. So you really want to make sure that if your objective is to really meet business prospects, that you are really on your toes, because people are really watching, probably even now more so than any other time, because they're ready to spend a little more money at the top of the year or in next year. So that would be probably what I would say.
Yeah, I agree. For me personally, I think one of my priorities living in Music City for 2012 has been to be able to participate and sort of witness more music-based events. And we have lots of those too, and they're hard to choose from. So especially for me this year, where networking and holiday events have overlapped with some opportunity to hear music I haven't had before, I've really tried to spend some time on that.
Okay. All right, very good. Now, and of course, whereas you may be hosting an event, that's an entirely different matter, but you're going into a lot of different, potentially workplaces, but also after-hours events or out venue. And different employers and different companies have different cultures. And Keith, maybe we could start with you and talk a little bit about how you navigate and figure out, okay, how does this party differ from this one, and give us some tips for sort of navigating and knowing the ins and outs.
Absolutely. Before I walk all the way into any event, I really take the temperature of the room and kind of see, is there someone really loud on this side? Is there someone at the bar? Is there someone who's really by themselves? Because maybe that's someone I want to go up and talk to first. Kind of what's going on in the room before I jump right in. I think that for me, I like to just have real intentional decision-making, strategic decisions when I go to these events. And I really want to know like which part of the room I want to be in. It also helps set the tone for the conversation I'm going to have. I don't want to be super business in conversation if everybody's having a good time and having drinks and I'm the only one talking about business, or vice versa. if I'm the one who's having more fun than everyone else, I'm again being paid attention to, and they're trying to figure out why is she not here to do more business stuff. So that's probably my first and foremost thing is to really take the temperature of the room.
I think for me, a lot of times I first pay attention to volume because that tells us a lot about how much conversation's already going on. Also, I'm not super comfortable with crowds and really kind of loud, off the wall environment. I'm much better at one-on-one conversation, I hope. And so I'm really interested in those times, especially if I know I'm going to an event where there may be some new prospects for hire. I'm really interested in the meaningful conversation and even with people I already know. Maybe I see through other trade events throughout the year, and this is a chance to really say, hey, I hear you have a dog, and, you know, go into personal matters. Yeah.
Is this a time of year where going more personal is okay? And how do you balance that sort of still that desire to grow business and to look for business prospects, but also not come off as someone who slips a business card in with every handshake? I mean,
Oh gosh, those people.
Yeah, I think it's really good sometimes to fall back on some Southernisms, and I've noticed something that other people are really good about is saying, may I ask you? And I've heard some folks say, may I ask you about your kids? And people very honestly respond and say, no, I don't discuss them with business associates. And the same thing about their church or other matters that are personal choices. So I think it's always good to slip that may I in there.
Absolutely. I love that because I have done that as well, that may I even introduce myself? And some of that is just, again, you know that they're probably not going to say no, but it's giving them an opportunity to put the ball back in their court. But in terms of personality, I think this is a great time to also show that you get out there and do whatever the latest line dance is or whatnot within reason. But I think that that's important for people to be able to see that. And it's a good opportunity to learn more about people than we typically do, because over the water cooler, if you will, people will share about their children or what they did, yesterday, last night, or all those type of things that sometimes we don't get. So yeah.
Okay. And again, we talk about line dancing, we talk about sort of taking part in activities. Almost as a good refresher, any pitfalls that folks should watch out for. I mean, obviously we know there's a lot of alcohol flowing, so I mean, any practical tips that can help you sort of find that balance and make sure you're on your best behavior.
I mean, certainly when in Rome, do as Romans do, but within reason. Again, if everyone's drinking, it's nothing wrong with partaking. Just know your limit and know, again, what your objective is. If you're going to have a great time, but know that people are still watching. And I think that that's important. But yeah, absolutely have a good time with the people who are there.
I certainly would say I really pay attention to, especially the events that are organized by groups, whether there are non-alcoholic options. I think that's just, it's lots of folks have social issues or their own choice issues around whether or not they drink. And I think showing respect for that by having a lot of choices is really important. And also, you never know, especially when you're IT, who's going back to the office to do some more work or maybe, doing early hours tomorrow. So I think just respecting choices and knowing what your own are before you get there helps a lot.
Very good, very good. Now, if you are talking business and maybe you want to connect with folks afterward, I mean, how then do you sort of deal with the follow-up? What kind of time frame are we looking at? I mean, how do you sort of take that next step then after the party?
I say follow up before vacation. So if you're that night when you get back home, just say, hey, great meeting you. I know that we're both probably going out of the office, but just wanted to say I'll follow up again at the top of the year. But that way they don't forget about you. You can mention, heard you had a dog, great meeting you. Maybe we go to the doggy park, something like that. But mention something that they said in that. So that way you have a point of conversation when you follow up for the second time.
That's great. I always feel like this is something I need to work on and I'm falling behind on. I try to remember at the moment that I meet someone that I find really engaging, I want to talk to you more, to say, what's the best method to follow up with you? Because I know for me a lot of times that's a text message that I'm going to get to it right away. But if it's an email, it may be a little bit longer. If it's a voicemail, it may be a lot longer than that. Just to be realistic, yeah.
That's a good one, yeah. Just asking the medium, I think that's awesome, yeah.
Okay. And any advice? I know we're kind of hitting that point where companies are looking at doing their own events, and any last-minute advice is for business owners or managers that are getting ready to head into an event, just to make sure that they're creating an environment where people can have a good time, but also be able to balance that. Any last-minute advice for folks before they head out?
Probably from a kind of business standpoint, not starting the music immediately, letting it come down for the first hour, hour and a half, so that people can talk, and then blast it as loud as you want at that point. But that way you can breed conversation with people before you get right into the party of it all.
That's cool. Yeah, I think backing off a lot. I think a lot of times people who work together, especially, don't have time to socialize, and everybody's after hours are really split into lots of places they need to go. So I think for groups and for work groups, to get out of the way and allow people to network naturally and gravitate to who they're drawn to is really helpful.
Okay, very good, very good. All right, well, I thank you again so much, and certainly wish everyone out there happy holidays. Again, join us here every Tuesday for BizCast, and of course you can go to Tennessean.com throughout the week, every day at 3 o'clock, for a variety of topics and a variety of webcasts throughout every day. You can also check out the archives online anytime, day or night. Thanks again, and good afternoon.